Imagine waking up to find XRP's priced at $2,500. Sounds absolutely insane, right? Well, that's exactly the rabbit hole that I fell into this week, and spoiler alert, I came out the other side equal parts excited and just a little skeptical. You see, I'm one of those XRP holders who's always believed in its potential, but I do try to keep my feet on the ground. So when I heard that a top crypto CEO casually drops a prediction of XRP hitting $2,500 per coin, my first reaction was, wait, come again? Did he really say 2,500? And I nearly, of course, spat out my coffee, right? The whole thing started when someone on our free educational Discord server shared an article about this bold claim. My inner curiosity went into overdrive and I had to find out, could there possibly be any truth to this, or is it just another crypto fairy tale? So buckle up, because what I found is one heck of a story that might just change how you look at XRP. First off, let me address the elephant in the room. $2,500 per XRP sounds lunacy when XRP is just hovering around that $3 level as we speak. But let's do the math, and you're kind of talking roughly an 83,000% price increase. And if you're into market caps, at $2,500 a pop, XRP's total market value would be something like $150 trillion. That was with a T. So for context, that is more than the entire global stock market combined, and yep, bigger than every Apple, Microsoft, and Tesla share on the planet added together. No wonder that some folks, myself included at times, would say, nah, that's just never gonna happen. I mean, it feels futuristic. It feels unrealistic, right? Almost comically so. Now, critics are quick to kind of point out how absurd those kind of multi-trillion-dollar figures really do sound. Now, you hear things like XRP at $2,500 would be worth more than all of the money in the world, bro. Get real. And honestly, you can't blame them for thinking this, but they do not understand market cap at the same time. After all, market cap only shows you an idea of value. It doesn't show you liquidity. But here is the twist. 𝗗𝗶𝘀𝗰𝗱, the CEO of a company called Digital Ascension Group, thinks that we're the ones who actually need to get real, right? In a rather different way. Now, according to 𝗗𝗀, right, there's no magic button that will suddenly catapult XRP's price to the moon overnight. Instead, he argues that it would be a perfect storm of global events to actually create what he calls a supply shock for XRP. And that supply shock, he believes, could send the price rocketing. Now, in other words, it's not about some wishful thinking or some pixie dust. It's actually about economics 101, supply and demand. Now, one of the first things that 𝗗𝗀 basically says is, forget market cap. Yeah, all of those giant trillion-dollar comparisons. He waves them off, and rightfully so. Now, to him, the only thing that truly drives value in any market is how much XRP is actually available to buy versus how many people want to buy it, right? This is just stereotypical kind of econ 101. But let's think about it this way. If tomorrow every XRP holder, but one refuses to sell their coins, well, the market cap number would look astronomical on paper, right? But it wouldn't matter because hardly anyone would actually or could actually buy or sell at those particular prices, right? Now, 𝗗𝗀 kind of points out the available supply, that's the XRP actually floating around for sale, is the real deal. It's not the total supply or the theoretical market cap, right? So, in his eyes, $2,500 XRP isn't crazy if almost nobody is willing to sell and a whole ton of people actually want to buy it. That is a classic supply crunch scenario. And guess what? XRP supply is fixed, like truly fixed, right? Written in stone, or rather in code. All 100 billion XRP that will ever exist were created way back in 2012 when the ledger launched. Now that's it. There's no more new XRP that can ever be minted. In fact, the original supply is basically locked up in what is called a black hole account, right? The translation is that nobody can actually access it to create more tokens or mess with it at all. There's no Federal Reserve of XRP printing new coins out of thin air. And there's no way to freeze or seize XRP either. So when 𝗗𝗶𝘀 looks at XRP, he sees a one-of-a-kind asset in the crypto world. One where you can see, at least what you can see, is exactly what you get, the supply-wise anyway. Now, it's a bit like owning a piece of land in Manhattan, right? They're not making any more of it. But wait. It gets better, or crazier depending on your point of view. XRP isn't just fixed in supply, it's actually shrinking. How? Because a small amount of XRP gets burned with each and every transaction. Now, 𝗗𝗶𝘀 points out that roughly 5,000 XRP are burned every single day as people and institutions use the network. So over time, the total supply is slowly decreasing. So he even kind of joked that XRP is literally the only deflationary asset beside uranium on the planet, right? Uranium. I had to kind of chuckle at that one, I know. But, you kind of think about the analogy, right? When you use uranium in a reactor, it gets used up and you can't really get it back. It's the same idea here with XRP. Every day, a little bit disappears forever. So not only can't anyone print any more XRP, there's actually less of it as time goes by too. Scarcity meets even more scarcity. Now, put all of those pieces together, limited supply, a steady shrinking pool of XRP, and the potential for a massive wave of demand, and you have the ingredients for 𝗗𝗶𝘀's big prediction. Now, he's basically saying, yes, XRP can hit $2,500, but only if a lot of things go right, or, depending on how you see it, go wrong in the world to drive money into XRP. Now, he's not tossing out numbers just for fun either. In fact, this isn't the first time that he's made jaw-dropping call on XRP. A few months back in July, 𝗗𝗶𝘀 went on a crypto show and said that if certain events line up, XRP could hit somewhere between $1,500 and $2,000 by January 1st, 2026. And yeah, as in barely over a few months from now. Now, even I had to kind of rewind that part. $2,000 by 2026? Really? It sounds like science fiction. But here is the thing. He had a list of very specific dominoes that he believes would actually need to fall in order to make it happen. And that is where this story gets wild. So, what are these dominoes that 𝗗𝗶𝘀 is watching? Well, let me break them down in plain English. Number 1, unwinding the reserve carry trade. Now, this is a fancy way of saying that there could be a massive reversal of some big money financial strategies, right? In simple terms, a lot of investors borrow money in one place where it's kind of cheap and then invest it somewhere else for higher returns. That's a carry trade. It's like borrowing low interest money from your buddy to buy a bunch of stuff that pays you back more. Now, if that trade starts to unravel, let's say the interest rates change or markets get shaky, well, all that money could rush back out at the same time. Now, that's the kind of reverse carry trade unwind. Now, why does 𝗗𝗶𝘀 care? Well, it's because such a massive financial U-turn could wreak havoc on liquidity in markets. So if traditional investments start tanking because everyone's exiting their positions, well, a lot of capital might start seeking safer havens. And 𝗗𝗶𝘀 thinks some of that could flow into assets like XRP, especially if XRP is seen as a stable bridge in the storm. Number 2. Tether in trouble. Next up, Tether, the biggest stablecoin, that's supposedly always worth $1. Now, 𝗗𝗶𝘀 points at Tether as a potential weak link in the crypto ecosystem. There's been endless speculation with regulators, or at least that regulators might finally drop the hammer on Tether. Now, imagine if one day news breaks that Tether is under serious investigation or facing charges. That could be catastrophic for crypto in the short term. Tether is like the oil in the crypto engine. It's everywhere. So if people suddenly don't trust USDT's dollar peg, well, there would be panic. Now, we would see money sloshing around, fleeing Tether, and here's 𝗗𝗶𝘀's angle, right? Or 𝗗𝗶𝘀's angle, I should say. If Tether cracks, where does a lot of that value go? Well, some might seek other stablecoins, sure, but maybe a chunk finds its way into XRP, especially if XRP has a regulatory clarity by then, right? 𝗗𝗶𝘀 basically thinks that XRP could step up as a safe haven if Tether, the giant, stumbles. Number 3, the Epstein files shock crypto. Now, this one kind of came out of the left field and definitely made me raise an eyebrow. Now, 𝗗𝗶𝘀 brought up the files and the case, the Epstein case, suggesting that newly released documents or revelations from that saga might ripple into the crypto world. The implication is that there's some big names or institutions tied up in shady dealings might also have, entanglements with certain crypto assets or companies, possibly even Tether. So if something or, explosive comes out linking illicit kind of finances or money laundering to parts of the crypto industry, it could trigger a crisis of confidence. Investors could panic and there might be a broader market contagion, meaning trouble in one corner of crypto spreads everywhere. In that chaos, 𝗗𝗶𝘀 believes XRP might shine as a safe bet, especially if it is seen as one of the more regulated and institutional-friendly tokens. Number 4. Liquidity crisis. The Ellis theory. Now, this part is kind of like crypto folklore. There's a guy named Ellis who once theorized that XRP's price could explode overnight due to a quirk in exchange liquidity. And here's the gist. Suppose there isn't a lot of XRP available on exchanges. If a big buyer comes in and wants to scoop up a whole ton of XRP at market price, well, they would rapidly eat through all of the asks. Those are the sell orders. Because, there just isn't enough liquidity, right? Now, the price would at least keep jumping higher and higher as buyers the buyers' orders kind of fill with whatever tiny amounts are actually available at each price level. Now, in an extreme case, this could send XRP's price per coin sky high in a blink. Now, the Ellis theory even tossed around a famous number, $589 per XRP. Now, as a kind of hypothetical target way back in the day, which became kind of a meme. Now, 𝗗𝗶𝘀 is basically saying, in a scenario where a supply shock is happening and demand tightens, at least demand kind of suddenly surges, I should say, exchanges might not cope and we could see one of those blink and you miss it price spikes. Number 5, XRP's 24/7 advantage. Now, 𝗗𝗶𝘀 also highlights something pretty practical. XRP can settle transactions in seconds, at any time, any day, no weekends off, no holidays. But imagine a financial crisis that hits, on a Friday night, for example. Banks are closed, stock markets are off for the weekend. The traditional systems are basically on pause until Monday. But the crypto markets, they never sleep. And 𝗗𝗶𝘀's argument is that in such a scenario, say big banks need to move money or collateral quickly during those off hours, a digital asset with real-time settlement like XRP becomes incredibly valuable. It's kind of like having a lifeboat when the big ships are docked. Institutions could use XRP to rebalance or transfer funds when nothing else is moving. Number 6, Wall Street's secret weapon, Project Ion. Now, the DTCC, which is basically the backbone of the US stock market settlement, has this platform called Project Ion, built with a company called R3. Now, it's been running behind the scenes to kind of speed up and modernize how trades are settled. What does this have to do with XRP, you might be thinking? Well, according to 𝗗𝗶𝘀, a system like Project Ion could really use a neutral, liquid bridge asset to connect different financial ledgers and move value rather quickly. Now, XRP was literally designed to be that kind of bridge currency. So 𝗗𝗶𝘀 suggests that when push comes to shove, Project Ion might tap, XRP to grease the wheels of global finance in real time. Number 7, geopolitical chaos and oil prices. Finally, 𝗗𝗶𝘀 tossed a wild card of politics, right? Specifically, rising oil prices and Middle East tensions. If conflict flares up and oil prices spike, it could hasten that kind of breakdown, of the kind of carry trades that we spoke about earlier. Explosive movements, right? Expensive oil can drive inflation and force central banks to act or cause certain debt strategies to implode. Now, the short version is that the more global instability equals more chances that the traditional financial system shakes and alternative assets get a spotlight. Now, 𝗗𝗃 is saying that these kinds of crises, could actually accelerate people's flight to assets like XRP. Now, before we all get too carried away with all the hypotheticals, let me just slip on my kind of serious hat for a second here. It's a quick disclaimer time, because this might just shock you, but I'm not a financial advisor and nothing in this video is financial advice. Cryptocurrencies are highly volatile and you could lose all of the money that you invest. You should always do your own research and consult a qualified professional. After all, your investments are entirely your responsibility and you should know that nothing is ever guaranteed when it comes to investing. Neither I, this channel, nor YouTube are liable for any losses, and this video is for entertainment and educational purposes only. Alright, now that we've kind of got all of 𝗗𝗃's big ticket scenarios on the table, and we've probably kind of disclosed and I guess doused ourselves in the disclaimers, let's talk about what all of this really does mean, right? Honestly, listening to this, part of me is kind of fired up, right? I'm picturing like this movie montage of series of different events, market shaking, regulators swarming, secrets getting exposed, and through it all, XRP is just chilling, waiting for its moment, or its hero moment. The idea is exhilarating, I won't lie. If even only half of those dominoes fell, I would probably be glued to my screen watching XRP's price ticker like it's the World Cup final, right? I can already imagine logging into my BitGet account and seeing some ridiculous number on my XRP holdings. I'd have to rub my eyes and maybe even pour another cup of coffee to make sure that I'm just not dreaming. It would be absolute madness, but in the best possible way. Now, imagine all of those factors hitting all at once. It's a late Sunday night. The world's financial system is having a kind of Lehman Brothers moment, part 2, right? Headlines are screaming, carry trade collapse, Tether bust, shocking financial scandal rockets the markets, banks are scrambling, but they're closed for the weekend. Meanwhile, XRP is just out here settling transfers in seconds like it's no big deal. Traders and institutions start piling in because it's the only way, or at least the only thing really moving money when everything else is kind of frozen. The price of XRP starts climbing and climbing. Exchanges, order books are thinner than paper. So each new buy sends it even higher, $10, $50, $100. Suddenly, those huge sell walls that seemed crazy high are gone in a blink of an eye. Maybe some mega bank or government desperately kind of market buys a whole ton of XRP to keep liquidity flowing, and whoosh, right? We wake up to an XRP price that makes absolutely zero sense compared to a week prior. Now we're talking truly bonkers numbers flashing on the screen. At least at $100, I'll be pinching myself. At $1,000, I'll probably be on the floor. And at $2,500, honestly, I think I would just be staring at my screen in disbelief, maybe even laughing, maybe crying, probably even both. It would be one for the history books. But let's pump the brakes for a second. Coming back to reality, as thrilling as all of that sounds, it's important to remember that this is just speculative, like extremely speculative. Yes, 𝗗𝗃 laid out a pretty kind of epic storyline, didn't he, right? For how XRP could reach $2,500. And as an XRP fan, I'd love nothing more than to see it happen. But I'm also a realist. Now, all of those factors, the carry trade collapse, the Tether takedown, the global crises, that's a lot of ifs and buts, right? That's a lot of them, and they would all need to happen in relatively tight window for it to really hit those kind of sky-high prices soon. Could I see XRP steadily climbing as adoption grows and some of these things maybe play out over a longer period? Sure. Am I going to bet my life savings that we're going to hit $2,500 per coin by next year? Hell no, right? Even 𝗗𝗃's more conservative scenario, $1,500 to $2,000 by 2026 is, as he himself admits, something most people find far-fetched. The truth is that nobody really knows exactly what will happen, right? Could XRP become a sort of financial safety kind of raft in a storm? It's possible, right? It does have unique utility and a design that fits some pretty niche high-speed settlement roles. Could it also kind of just chug along at much more modest price trajectory. Also, yes, right, I've seen people in this crypto space get burned by overhype and unrealistic expectations many times over. So while I'm holding on to my XRP, and I mean, you bet that I am, I didn't just sit through all of these years of drama for a $3 coin just to bail early. But I am treating any talk of $2,500 as gravy. Like, if it ever happens or even gets close to that, fantastic. I might actually finally take that vacation to Bora Bora. But if it doesn't, then I'm not going to be crushed because I didn't hinge my entire financial future on a single moonshot. Heck, I might even go on Blowfin and set one of those ludicrous sell orders at like $2,500 just in case the universe decides to surprise us. It can't hurt, right? Okay, maybe just a little bit of daydreaming there, but the point is that I'm optimistic, but I'm also rather grounded. So, what are my takeaways from all of this? Well, it's fun to speculate, and even more fun to imagine being part of that 4% of holders who might actually hit the jackpot if lightning strikes. Right? 𝗗𝗄𝘀's vision of a $2,500 XRP gives us a whole lot to think about how interconnected global events are, and how an asset like XRP could play a role in scenarios that we probably never really considered. It reinforces why I got into XRP in the first place, right? The potential for something revolutionary, even if the odds are rather long. But it also reminds me why caution and common sense are rather key things in crypto, right? You can believe in the future while still kind of being ready for twists and turns. So if you found this useful and informative, maybe even entertaining or eye-opening, smash that like button for me, subscribe, and catch me in the next video that's queued up over there, because this story is only just beginning.